everyone, we're back with Find Your Film. This is not your weekly movie recommendation episode. It's a different episode every couple of weeks. We do a director spotlight and we do a rotating sort of roundtable situation. This week it is Bruce Perky's turn and his choice. Bruce, can you tell our listeners what your choice was and why why you decided on this person?
Well, I chose the great and wonderful Joe Dante, partly because I thought, we're right around the Halloween season. He's done a lot of different genre stuff. I also thought that we've done a lot of, artistic and, obscure stuff, but Joe Dante is underappreciated in my opinion, and he's just tons of fun, and there is so much movie love in his movies to dig into, along with just enjoying the movies. And on top of that, because Greg yourself had never seen Gremlins, we thought, well, what a better way to get you to watch Gremlins and finally jump on the train with us. So that's why.
before we get to Eric Holmes, listeners, I just want to tell you how much of an idiot I was. I've actually interviewed Joe Dante maybe 7-8 months ago, and at the time I decided to go see The Burbs, which I ended up really liking. During the interview, I told him how much I love The Burbs, and he was surprised during the interview how I hadn't seen The Burbs at that time, and I didn't want to ruin the interview by telling him I had never seen Gremlins. So finally, I finally seen Gremlins. So that's me being an idiot. Now, this week, it's Bruce Perky. I do not doubt your love for Joe Dante, Bruce Perky. The thing is, Eric Holmes, you have a really interesting distinction. How long have you loved Joe Dante? How many years? I mean, was he always been one of your favorite filmmakers?
Kind of like when we were talking about Aaron Sorkin, and David Mamet. I didn't know Joe Dante right away. I just knew that Gremlins came out, and we got they had the little record, the storybook records. I think there was 5 of them, and I got those, and I went through those. I'm like, oh, this is creeping me out, but I love it so much. But we didn't go to the theater a lot, because they're, with my parents and there's 5 kids, that's kind of hard. It's a pretty large haul to bring us to the theaters. And I think at the time there was like a lot of parents like, how could you, this isn't a kid's movie. I brought my kid to it and it scared the crap out of him. And to be honest, when I first saw it, scared the crap out of me too. But I had so much pre-hype of this movie. I knew the whole story because I did the storybooks. I read everything I could about Gremlins. I wanted to see it so bad. And I think to the point where I don't even remember the first time seeing it. It was probably on HBO or something. And I just fell in love with it. And it wasn't until years and years and years, probably decades later, that I even knew who Joe Dante was. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, he did Gremlins. Oh, he did Gremlins too. Okay, he did The Burbs and Inner Space. I like those movies. Oh, okay, and then eventually I just kind of figured it out, but I don't know exactly when. But yeah, he's Joe Dante. He's kind of the Tarantino of his day, where he loves movies so much, and every movie has, you can watch them 1,000 times and you're always going to find something new in it because he just jam packs them so full of so many little tiny details. And they're not just little cameos or Easter eggs for the sake of doing that. They kind of work within the world that he's building, and it just makes them really rich. And yeah, don't know if that answers the question, but I love Joe Dante, and his movies are aces in my book.
I'm sorry, Bruce Perky. I don't want to bury the lead here. Okay. You're first off, we're gonna get to your 2 Joe Dante picks in a second for this episode. I just want a little tease for this episode. We're gonna get to why Eric Holmes has proclaimed Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante, as his all-time favorite movie. I can't wait to discuss that in depth with you personally, but Eric. So that's going to be a little bit of teaser for this episode. But before we get to that, Bruce Perky, what are the two films that we are going to spotlight from Joe Dante? Obviously hard to pick. Why did you make these two decisions?
I made, well, Gremlins just because it's a great movie and it's probably, of all of his movies, probably the most well known. But also, even with all the love around it, it's probably still underappreciated, I think. And then Matinee, partly because I hadn't seen it in its entirety, maybe for a long time. I didn't remember it too clearly, but my main recollection of it was a great movie about the love of movies. And I thought that would be a really fun one to check out. And I know there's a ton of stuff to dig in there as well. And one other thing I want to add in, because you talked about how we're going to get into why it's the best movie of all time, Gremlins is in Eric's eyes, and maybe some other people's. He also challenged us to come up with a question that he couldn't answer for Gremlins. So I'm going to definitely try to do that when we get towards the end of that segment. So,
okay, I failed. My only question is my hard question to you, Eric. Who directed Gremlins?
Oh, geez,
I'm really bad at this.
Steven Spielberg, right? No. Damn it.
So, yeah, that's really cool. Did you know Joe was short for Joseph? Stumped you?
Oh, like Joseph H. Lewis.
Now, Bruce. Okay, so it's so funny. There's this movie called, I think it's called. Did you see this movie directed by Dwight Little with starring Steven Seagal and Kurt Russell? I think it's called Executive Decision.
Yeah.
Is it right? I have a feeling this episode is gonna be, because look, Bruce, you picked Joe Dante, okay, and I respect that, but I feel like you're Steven Seagal in this episode. Steven Seagal in that movie Executive Decision, whatever that movie was made, he's killed. Spoiler alert, 20 minutes into the movie, and then Kurt Russell and Halle Berry basically take over the entire thing. So I think Eric Holmes, this is a little sneak peek. I have a feeling that me and Bruce we're gonna be the Steven Seagals of Executive Decision, and you're gonna be Halle Berry and Kurt Russell on this Joe Dante episode. So
we will see.
That said, Eric, I'm gonna try to steer this latest conversation away from you right to Bruce. And what movie should we start with first, Bruce?
I think we probably need to start with Matinee, even though timeline wise, it's after Gremlins in history. But I feel like we're going to go down a rabbit hole with Gremlins, a very, very deep Gremlin-y rabbit hole. So we probably should start with Matinee first.
Okay. Well, Matinee was released in 1993. It stars John Goodman, is the big quote unquote star of the film. It also stars Cathy Moriarty from that movie Raging Bull, which we know her from. She was also in this movie that I still haven't seen called Wide of the Eye, which I've always wanted to see for the last 35 years. Never seen that. But short plot synopsis from IMDb, quote unquote, a small-time film promoter releases a kitschy horror film during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That is a horrible plot synopsis. Small-time film promoter is John Goodman. He plays Lawrence Woolsey. He's sort of a throwback to, I guess, I'm probably saying this wrong, like I'm trying to think of film promoters, but he was like this is a like a homage to those William Castle type movies, the era when filmmakers, producers, entertainers try to put a little bit of extra entertainment into their movies, whether it's a smellorama thing or if it's a shock in your seats while you're watching the movie, all these little gadgets and tricks to bring audiences into the theater. Maybe it's a titillating actress in a compromising position with a monster and it's on a poster and it's suggestive enough for people to come in. That's sort of the draw behind Matinee. It's about how Lawrence Woolsey tries to attract these people in this small town. That's just a small part in the movie. And yeah, Bruce, can you take over?
I mean, I think this is even more so than Gremlins, because Gremlins has a plot that really is pretty integral and you want to go with the plot as well as all the characters and stuff. This movie, the plot is really just a loose structure to hang all of the movie love and characters around, because it doesn't go a lot places. There isn't a huge path that is followed. You basically have a few days during the Cuban Missile Crisis, some kids and the William Castle like character coming into town, and all the interactions that occur. And this kind of gets to the heart right out of the gate of kind of the way that he adds so much value to his movies. They're entertaining, they're fun to watch, and they give you so much movie history. If you want to find the movies that are referenced, you can. If you know the movies that are referenced, you'll love it even more. And like you said, right out of the gate, definitely John Goodman shines in this. And I would say so does Cathy Moriarty, but John Goodman shines as the William Castle guy. And if you don't know who William Castle is, he is worth discovering all on his own. And probably what's the most famous William Castle movies, 13 Ghosts, The House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler, which is kind of, they do a reference to that a little bit here, because during The Tingler, he tried to, some of the seats would be wired to kind of vibrate and kind of buzz the people during certain key moments, things like that. So I guess I would just get you guys to give your first impressions out of the gate, and I can definitely talk about some things that I loved about it, ways that it works. It works on nostalgia in kind of two ways, because it's a nostalgic movie of its own, but it's nostalgic in its very nature. Definitely the love of a young nerdy kid that wants to get monster movies and wants to get the girl and wants to, all those things.
Well, the nerdy part I really loved, because so the nerd in this movie, he's sort of a not really an outcast. He's sort of a little bit, he's a little bit of an outsider because his dad's in the military. Gene Loomis, played by child actor Simon Fenton. So Gene is the guy who I think maybe each of us can relate to, and so many more listeners, you can relate to this. Gene Loomis, he's a cinephile. He loves movies. And he's one of those guys who keeps horror magazines, film magazines in his room just to read. He's one of those people. And look, you have a monster. Monsters. Is that?
He literally has these famous Monsters of Filmland's
wow,
magazines in the scenes.
Yeah. So I remember reading a ton of. Were you guys movie magazines guys when you were growing up? I collected all of that stuff when I was growing up, so I was able to relate to that. And Bruce, you were talking about the fact that it's set in the Cuban Missile Crisis in the small town, and there's really not much to go. And that's not a knock. You don't mean that to
no,
be, because
this is more like a slice of life. It's like, it's you want to just live in these few days with these characters, basically.
Yeah, and it's called Matinee. So a big part of the movie is set in the theater. When you mentioned Cathy Moriarty is really good in this movie, my initial complaint was, wow, Cathy Moriarty, she plays the producer Lawrence Woolsey's producer director Lawrence Woolsey's soulmate and companion, and also actress in his films. And I was thinking towards the end, man, I wish they had more of her character in the movie. But then I said, wait a second, I'm wrong. They actually had a lot of her character in the movie, because she's one of the main stars in the movie within the movie, Mant.
Yeah.
So
Mant, yeah.
yeah. So really, this movie, listeners, what you're getting for Matinee is not just a love for movies, but if you are a fan of, like Bruce was saying, that era of filmmaking, those type of movies, those castle movies, you get not only Matinee as a movie, you get to see a big portion of this movie, black and white film called Mant, which we'll get into in a second. Eric Holmes, were you always a fan of Matinee as far as your love for Joe Dante, or is that Matinee something that you were able to discover later in your watching of his film movies?
I believe Matinee. Wait, I forget what year it came out. That may have been one of the 93. Okay, so that wasn't the first Joe Dante movie I saw in theaters, but I did see it when it came out in theaters, and I thought it was pretty fantastic. And then that I haven't, obviously Gremlins I've watched billions of times. Matinee is one I've seen. I kind of watch like every 5-10 years, I'll kind of almost rediscover it, and it's almost like a new movie every time I watch it. This last time I watch it, we talked about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I listened to an interview with Joe Dante, and he talked about kind of growing up around that time and how it was a real thing. Like, we know what it is now, but at the time living in it, for him, it was like a really scary. And I think that kind of comes across in Matinee, especially early on when they're in the school, and the warning goes off. And is this a drill, or is this the real thing? And then they're all down, heads up, and then the girl stands up. It's like, how's that going to help you? The best thing we can hope for is that the bomb hits us directly, because if it doesn't, what's going to happen is the radiation's going to come and your skin's going to melt off over a week's time. But then it cuts to the other characters, and they're listening. The teachers are trying to calm her down, and all the kids are like, is she fucking serious? Are we gonna fucking die? Like, and so and Joe Dante does that really well. He just balances the drama, real drama, and real comedy, and just handles it fantastically. And that was one part where I saw, and especially after watching or listening to the interview, it's like, yeah, he kind of nailed it. Because in that moment, watching that, I'm kind of putting myself in that position, and yeah, that'd be pretty harrowing to be in school thinking, oh, this is it. The world's going to end right now, and I have to witness it, and I don't want to.
Yeah, my reaction when I rewatched it was how much I underrated the film when I saw it back in 1993, and how not just I underrated it, I just feel like Matinee is an ignored film. Unless you're a fan of Joe Dante's work, it's just really, it's an orphaned movie. It's real. I can't, and I don't know. I can't put my finger on why this movie is so ignored.
I think it's one of those movies that where I was talking about the plot before, right? This is a great second and third watch movie because, and I kind of talk about, like, the Coen brothers do this really well, right? A lot of times you'll see a Coen brother movie, and the first time you're kind of like, you're so focused on the plot, you're kind of like, okay. And once you can let the plot go a little bit, you just can live in all of the details and the character interactions. And that is the strength of this movie. And I think if people watch it once, they're kind of like, that was kind of a cheesy movie that didn't go anywhere. And they're kind of missing the point. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like, and I don't think this was not written by Joe Dante, if I remember correctly.
No,
but
it's Charlie Haas.
But it feels like a lot of his childhood has to be in this movie. I mean, I picture him when I watch this movie, I picture him as the little brother the whole time. He's the little brother, the older brother's scaring him, the little brother's kind of watching everything. And I feel like this is like years later, the little brother wrote this movie. That's kind of what I feel when I watch this. And I mean, there's so many moments to love, not to mention the parodies. We talk about how awesome, I don't know if we want to get into it already. Yeah. Not only Mant, which there's a ton of Mant, you can watch a supercut of Mant if you want to. You can go on YouTube and places, and it's about 13 minutes long.
Wow.
And it is genuinely funny. There are some moments in there that are so funny. And then there's even another little clip, the one that with Naomi Watts that we discussed in another episode, called the Shook Up Shopping Cart, which is like a really short parody, but it's a parody of, like, those Herbie the Love Bug kind of movies. And that's hilarious too. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just fun.
And like you were saying, there's some goofy subplots that are just, they don't really mean that much. They're just sort of ancillary stuff. The whole movie is about the matinee, but even the ancillary stuff, they're entertaining to watch because it's Joe Dante. He has a certain just brevity to the way he tells a story, and it's just it's just really well done, and it's unpretentious. I think that's another trademark of Joe Dante, which I think we're gonna get into.
Yes,
that I love. He's so humble with the way he approaches his storytelling, and it's a lot of his stuff is unadorned but really fun to watch. And I think that's one of these things where Matinee, it just gets better with age. I have a feeling, especially when you get older and you start appreciating movies more and have a bigger knowledge. I hate to say this, but when you have a bigger knowledge of film, I'm older now. I feel like I appreciate, and it's a much deeper film for me. Eric was talking about how he got the scary part. For me, it's just a real. I didn't get that true deep love of cinema that he had when I was watching it in '93. I just said, "Oh well, here's this dude. I guess he kind of knows the subject." But then, as the years pass, it's a much deeper film than that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also think the stuff with the Cuban Missile Crisis and like kind of building it up, because it's kind of in the background, like it's always in the background, but they're always building it up, and it makes the we'll just say the finale at the movie theater. I don't think that scene pays off as well if he did not already do the legwork of building that up
Right.
as a thing, because it's not just the kid that's worried about it. It's not just something that someone mentioned in passing. This is like this doom that's looming over everybody. No one talks about it, but everyone knows it's there. And so when they're sitting in the theater and that thing happens and everyone freaks the fuck out, it's like, yeah, nailed that one. Hit that punchline hard.
I was surprised. I was surprised at how dangerous it did get at the end. Also, we got to mention Bruce. We got to mention Dick Miller and John Sayles.
Yes.
They are so amazing.
Yep.
They could have been in their own movie. I thought. So.
Well, and I was going to mention that's the other thing. So we talked about all the Easter eggs and stuff, but also by putting these known actors, that there's actors in his movies all the time that you will see, and the average viewer might not really know who they are, but it works almost subliminally. So in a movie like this, it's all about the history of movies and this nostalgia and all this stuff. And then in the midst of that, you're kind of in this meta way, you're seeing old B-movie actors in roles. And even if they don't know that's who they are, it's like, I kind of recognize, like, wait a second. And it kind of does that effect. So like you said, John Sayles and Dick Miller, but you also got to mention like Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, famously from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one with the final scene, like, they're coming, listen to me, blah, 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 which is all about communist scare, right?
Yeah.
He's in Mant, and there's all the guys, all the generals and the doctors and stuff in Mant are all from old B movies,
Oh, that's
or
amazing.
little things like he names the thug boyfriend, like the bad boy, he names him Starkweather, which is one of the killers from Natural Born Killers and Badlands and all those things.
Yeah. Very cool.
So little things that he'll do like that, just to kind of, it just infuses everything with like a weird history. Even if you don't know it's there, it feels real to you. That it all means something. So
essentially, we're probably missing a lot of Easter eggs here. Just you got to really dive deep into a lot of Dante's work. He has a lot of clues and a lot of cool things. Have you noticed that, Eric? Just from watching some.
With this one especially, because it was written by Charlie Haas, who also wrote Gremlins 2, and there's a lot of undercover jokes in there that they don't jump out as jokes. Like someone will just kind of the probably one of my favorite ones, and I'm not going to get the line right, but John Goodman's like trying to come up with the half woman, half alligator, woman gator. Croc a woman, Galligator. There you go. It's just like it was just a throwaway joke, but it definitely that kind of humor goes through a lot of Joe Dante's movies. But I have to say that Charlie Haas has a lot of those are his sense of humor too, because a lot of that is transfers over to Gremlins 2 as well. I'm trying to think what else he wrote, but yeah, he's got a really good sense of humor, and they don't always the jokes don't always jump out at you the first time you watch them. Sometimes you got to do it 10 times, and it's like, wait, what did that person in the background just say?
Little things like in Matt, where it's Dick Miller in the background because he's supposed to be an actor in the movies, and he's holding like a sugar bag, stuff like that. It's just like, just great. Well, it's just there.
Well, Charles S. Haas, Eric Holmes, his last credit was Rebel Highway, a TV series, limited run TV series. He did a teleplay for that one episode, but that was in 1994. He hasn't done anything. And remember, Matinee was in 1993. Previous to that, like you said, he did Gremlins 2, the new batch. He did a TV movie called Gang of Four, but more notably, uncredited screenwriting credit for Tron. He did the movie 1982 film Tex and Over the Edge. So, between Tex and Over the Edge, he had a pretty big mark in the 80s. So
were those both Matt Dillon movies? Tex and
yeah,
Over the Edge?
yeah, I believe Over the Edge was a Matt Dillon movie as well. Yeah, but we remember those movies. Yeah, Matt Dillon is the lead in Over the Edge. And what happened to this guy? Maybe is Charles S. Hass, maybe Matt Dillon. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, Tex as well. But it's weird. Where is this guy? Where are you, Charles S. Hass? We're calling out to you. Where are your screenplays?
He's hanging out with Rob Bottin, and they both need to come back now.
Rob Bottin, yes.
Who's that? I'm completely lost.
Okay, so we're talking Joe Dante. So Joe Dante, of course, has more movies than what we're talking about, but he basically helped the rise of Rob Bottin, which is like probably the heir other than Stan Winston to special effects.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So Rob Bottin, this is a good little trivia. It's not one of these movies. So Joe Dante's kind of breakout hit. He did Piranha, and he did a few things before that with Corman, but he did The Howling. That was kind of his breakout hit. And the trivia was originally Rick Baker, who famously did the transformation in American Werewolf in London, was gonna do The Howling, but then John Landis stole him back. He's like, no, wait. We're gonna make our American Werewolf movie. You come to me. I'm gonna get you. So Rob Bottin was his understudy, and he did the transformation in The Howling. And then Rob Bottin went on for great fame and doing, let's see, what is all the Dante? He did The Thing. He did the awesome comic book stuff in the Joe Dante segment in the Twilight Zone, the movie. He did a ton of stuff.
He did. He worked with David Fincher too. I believe he did Seven and Fight Club. I could be wrong about Seven, but I know Rob Bottin did stuff in Fight Club as well.
Well, he's uncredited even with stuff like the original Star Wars. He was like on the crews of some really early stuff. So Rob Bottin is like a master of special effects. Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't know Twilight Zone the movie. What segment did Dante direct?
Dante does the one it's the one, and it has Kevin McCarthy in it, if I remember correctly. Where the kid has all the people and they have to watch the cartoons, and there's a whole.
That is the best one out of the whole thing.
Yep.
That is easily the best one.
And that's all Rob Bottin stuff. All those crazy real.
That one's scary.
Yeah,
that's a scary. The movie itself I was mixed on, but that was the one that I really loved. So. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've seen that, right, Eric? You love
the Twilight Zone,
the movie, or
it's been a long time. The only one I remember is who did the another one with the Gremlin and John Lithgow,
George Miller.
Okay, I always wanted to say Toby Hooper did that one, but that's
So you got him, Mad Max director, and
John Landis did the one we don't talk about.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Joe Dante did the one you mentioned, and Steven Spielberg. Did he
do the old
okay.
people.
Kick the can, right?
Yeah.
But the Dante one was the best one. That was easily the best.
Well,
one.
A lot of people love the George Miller one more, but I think they're both neck and neck.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So Matinee, any final thoughts about Matinee before we get to Gremlins? Any final?
Check it out. It is very deep, very rich, and you're gonna find a bunch of fun. And it can't be overstated. John Goodman is fantastic in everything, but this was like the movie he was born to play, I think.
And I think, like Gremlins, this is a great comfort food movie. This is a movie you could put on like anytime and drop into it, drop out of it, sit, put it on, and you feel like you're in a world that makes you happy. You know what I mean? I feel like that with this movie. I feel like you can just enjoy this at any time.
Yes. And again, Matinee, really, really. How did you see this? I rented it. Did you guys rent it?
I rented it too. I was going to buy it, but I didn't see a copy easily, quickly grabbable at a nearby store. I would have bought it, but I rented it. Yeah.
Well, I did.
Oh, go ahead. Oh,
Eric,
I was just gonna say I have the special edition on the Blu-ray there. I was gonna pull it out, but it's not near me, so I will not do that.
From Shout Factory, I believe. Shout Factory.
Yeah, Shout Factory.
Okay. Now, there's a second movie chosen by Bruce Perky is this 1984 film called Gremlins. I recently went to my Best Buy and purchased the 4K Blu-ray UHD copy of Gremlins. Definitely, I saw it for the first time, and I am very embarrassed to say that's the first time I've seen it. Now, I'm just gonna again, quote unquote, not bury the lead. Eric Holmes, you say this is your favorite movie. My favorite movie of all time. I forget what your favorite movie of all time, Bruce, is.
Probably Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude. Okay, good. And then mine is Vertigo. Okay, mine is Vertigo because I remember the first time I saw it on VHS, the Saul Bass opening credits, the entire movie of love and sexual obsession and the twist. And it got me into this whole lifelong love for suspense thrillers. That said, it's my favorite movie, but there are so many better movies than Vertigo.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies because of how much it influenced my life. And I have a Vertigo shirt in my closet. So my question to you, Eric Holmes, would you attest that there are so many better films than Gremlins? Okay. All right. You're going to die on that hill. I don't mean
For
that.
those listening, I shook my head no.
Very good. He's appealing to both video and audio. By the way, that's the first time Eric Holmes has actually considered both video and audio. So that means he really loves Gremlins. So why is Gremlins your favorite movie? Obviously, it's not just about nostalgia for you.
Yeah, well, I think nostalgia definitely plays a part in it because it's such a big part of my childhood, and the hype that led to me, I had to seek out the movie and discover the movie before I even seen it. As I mentioned, to the point I don't even remember the first time I seen it. It's just, it feels like it's always been a part of me. But beyond that, and this actually kind of goes to a lot of Joe Dante's movies. Gremlins does one of my favorite bands, and we talked a little. I didn't really mention that it was one of my favorite bands, but Mr. Bungle's one of my favorite bands, Faith No More. One of the reasons I love them so much is that Faith No More and Mr. Bungle, they both do so many different genres of music, and every genre they hit, they nail it. They got the metal down, they got the funk down, they got the easy listening down, they got the Hawaiian music down. Like, they do everything they tackle. It's like the best version of that genre they're trying to tackle. And Gremlins is kind of similar in that regard because it's a family movie. It's a Christmas movie. It's a horror movie. It's a comedy. Go on down the line, and it's everything. It tackles so many genres, and it does every genre it touches. It just absolutely nails. It's like the best version of every genre it touches, and it's much like Matinee. It's got so many even today I watch it and I'll find little tiny things, not much these days because I've seen it way too many times, but there's so many details that you can pick up that you might not have picked up the last time. So it's even though I'm not picking up big things anymore when I watch it, I'm still picking up something. So it's all like watching a new movie. And then I get into it and I go back and read the original script, which is mentioned to you guys in chat, but the original script to Gremlins, written by Chris Columbus, is night and day different than the movie that we all know. Then it's got the novelization, which has a whole bunch of different backstories, and that in and of itself is a whole different story.
Did you like the novelization? Did you like that?
Oh yeah. I love everything about Gremlins ever. And in fact, they got the Gremlins Secret of the Mogwai coming out, and I already love that movie or that TV show, and it's not even out yet. And I hate TV shows because they always like get canceled early. But yeah.
Do you wish that Columbus script was ever? I mean, do you ever fantasize about that script being?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've always, because people are like, they've talked about making a Gremlins 3 forever, and they're gonna do CGI. though, as long as you keep the fun of it and do what they did with the first two Gremlins, I'm fine with it. And just the fact that put Gremlins in it, and I love it because they're funny and scary and hilarious. But the novel or the original script, there was a point where someone was like, oh, Warner Brothers is gonna do a remake of Gremlins. And I'd heard people like, oh, you can't remake Gremlins. I'm like, oh, yes, you can. Because there is a script that they did not shoot. The Gremlins movie everybody knows is not that script. That script is dark. One of the big scenes in Gremlins is when they hatch and Lynn Peltzer is going around killing all the gremlins. In the script, Billy comes home and his mom's head goes rolling down the attic, and Corey Feldman's character, he gets pulled into a snowman and eaten alive. Like that movie is just straight up B horror movie.
Mhm.
I figure if you're ever gonna if someone's gonna remake Gremlins, that's the way to do it. Warner Brothers, they clearly already own the script. Just take that script and do it exactly as the script is without the changes. Oh, another big change. Gizmo does not remain Gizmo throughout the entire movie.
Right.
Gizmo turns into Stripe in the original script. And it's such, it would be awesome to watch someone take that original script and make a movie of it as the script is written, just as a way to, it's always fun going back to see what could have been. I don't know if I'd love it more or less, probably equally. But look, if you're going to remake Gremlins, that's the way to do it. And if you want to hire me to do it, I will.
I think to me, like one of the things that makes it so great, though, is what you said, Eric, is how he does so many genres. Because if it got so dark, you'd lose some of the other stuff that's there. Yeah. So that's one thing I love about it is just, and I'd cut you off, Greg. Sorry.
No.
Just like everything from the Frank Capra-esque, small town stuff, the Christmas stuff, the wonder and like cute stuff. And then the humor, and then of course the horror. So it's got all those things in there, which makes it so rewatchable and so much fun and never boring. I mean, not even close to boring. You couldn't even try to make this movie boring, So.
I wonder what Dante does so well is because he loves movies so much. When Eric, you're talking about the different genres it approaches. There are directors who will, if they try to do a Frank Capra style small town, you see it and you go, wow, this is so hackneyed and self-conscious, right? The way it's shot or the way it's done. The filmmaker, he or she they don't really love the genre. They're just trying to ape it. And it seems that with Gremlins, every genre it tackles, it's not self-conscious. It's not to the point of where it's so self-referential. It's very inside baseball and esoteric. Only a niche audience will love. It's just pure fun. And
because he doesn't try to hide it. He doesn't try to pretend it's not there. He acknowledges it. He's like, I'm doing this. Watch this.
Yeah, and he clearly understands what he's trying to do. Good Times when we did William Friedkin. And he does all the different genres because that's kind of what the movie's about, is because they're trying to make different movies. But at least I got the sense that William Friedkin, he knew what a caveman movie or a Tarzan movie was. He knew what a Western was. He knew what a comedy was, and he made those segments as if he was doing that earnestly. And that's what Joe Dante does with Gremlins. Like all the, he knows what's scary, and he knows what makes Frank Capra movies great, and he knows he knows all these things and why they work, and so he's able to just get in there and nail it, ace everything this movie tries. It aces, and furthermore, this movie is airtight as far as plot goes.
Yes.
You may say, oh, there's that part where Rand Peltzer gets the bathroom buddy and sprays on his face, and then it cuts away, and the shaving cream from here to here. That's no, Eric, you're wrong. That's a fuck up. No, it is not. The Gremlins got in the editing bay and jerked that around. Oh,
okay.
eating after midnight. Now eating after midnight wins midnight. That's a plot hole. No, it's not. The Gremlins got in the script and fucked it up for you. So just the very fact that the characters themselves and they break the fourth wall, especially in Gremlins too. They break the fourth wall. So any mistake you can find in Gremlins can be explained through, the Gremlins got in the script and mess with it, because that's what they do.
Yeah, listeners, if you've never seen Gremlins as of yet, as of this listening to this podcast, a couple of things I'm going to spoil for you, not plot wise. Well, maybe a couple plot wise, but not a big deal because it's such an iconic film. Biggest things that surprised me about this movie. Holy crap, I had no idea it was this violent. It is really violent. I was scared. The people literally die in this movie. I thought this was one of these. I was thinking Joe Dante 80s movie, Spielberg-esque type of that whole kind of school. It'll make you feel good. Maybe something will happen that's really bad, but it's just water and they go crazy a little bit. But everything happens in this movie. So that's totally, completely surprised me. Had no idea. Okay.
Eric, what was the result of that?
The result of what?
All the violence in this movie. Partial result.
Probably the original script.
But I mean, didn't this kind of partially lead to the PG-13, right? This one and a couple of other things?
It was this and Red
Temple of
Dawn,
Doom?
I believe.
Temple of Doom too, I think.
Wait, maybe Red Dawn was the first PG-13?
Yeah.
Red Dawn was in there. Okay, so there you go. So it was this and Temple of Doom.
Or Dreamscape might have been too.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely this and definitely Temple of Doom. And so, because Temple of Doom, they pull the guy's heart out and they're like, this is PG? And they're like, PG-13.
All right, back to Greg. Cut you off, Greg.
Yeah, and also, no. That's so interesting. But I'm thinking also another thing that really surprised me. I love this movie called The Third Man. Orson Welles is Harry Lime, and he talks about the war and it's stress, centuries of stress and warfare. Sometimes it'll create great works of art. Look at people from Switzerland, all these centuries, no war, no blah blah blah. What do they create? The cuckoo clock, right? So that's a great monologue. There's I'm trying to think of other great monologues. This Phoebe Cates monologue from Gremlins, she plays this character Kate Berenger, who is ultimately the inevitable love interest of the main character. What's the main character's name? Played by Zach Galligan. Eric Holmes, what's his name?
I believe his name is Billy Peltzer.
Okay. Well, okay. So how many times have you seen
Don't worry.
this movie?
The trivia test is going to come up. Don't
okay.
worry.
How many times have you seen this movie, Eric Holmes? How many times? Guess.
I don't over 100. Easy,
over 100 easy. Okay.
And that's not like hyperbole. Like I've seen it a lot. Over 100 easy.
Okay, listeners, the Phoebe Cates monologue about what Christmas monologue, why Christmas, that whole kind of monologue about a memory of a family memory. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's a monologue that I was listening to the commentary. You know this, obviously, Eric, and I'm sure you know this, Bruce, that it's a monologue. Literally, Joe Dante fought tooth and nail to keep this monologue in. And thank goodness it stayed in, because it is an iconic monologue. I was blown away. If I hated everything about this movie, which I love this movie, but this monologue really stands out as one of my favorite moments in cinema. 1984, Greg, who was 13 years old, if I had seen Gremlins at that point, I would have probably fallen in love at that moment with Phoebe Cates after. So if you haven't seen Gremlins, definitely see it, even at the very least for this wonderful monologue by Phoebe Cates. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Here's another fun fact is Gremlins features Corey Feldman's first sex scene.
Oh, okay.
If you know how Gremlins works, they're asexual creatures. And when you pour water on them, they multiply. When you multiply, that's a sexual act. Corey Feldman pours water on Gizmo. Corey Feldman's first sex scene is in Gremlins with Gizmo.
That's
Something to,
interesting.
something to think about.
Something, yeah, as one would say from the 80s, one to grow on, right? One to grow on.
And technically, it was unconsensual, so it's technically a rape scene, but we won't get into that.
That is very deep diving, Eric Holmes, onto Gremlins. This is just, you know what? You could do another RPG, just license the Gremlins thing, and just go right.
That would
from
be
there.
awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Set it within the Dante worlds of where Gremlins set, and then maybe we'll extrapolate it to Matinee, that whole little small town. Now, yeah, what else, Bruce? You got some trivia?
Yes, we're gonna
You got
go down
some-
the trivia line. First of all, I saw the sneak preview of this. I dragged my family to go see the sneak preview because I wanted to see this movie. So once again, I'm going to take credit for this existing partially the way it does. So you can thank me later, Eric. And first of all, this is not really trivia, but just, do you have any idea what movie this sneak previewed with? Because old sneak previews, you'd have to go pay to see a movie that was out at a certain time, and then you'd stay through the movie, and then they would have one of the blocks taken out so they could put in the sneak preview movie.
I don't, because I didn't see this in the theater. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't see it in theater when it came out, so I wouldn't have known
So
that.
it came out in June. I believe I saw it in March or April. It came out. So my family had to sit all the way through Tarzan, The Legend of Greystoke,
Really? I love that movie.
featuring monkey stuff by Rick Baker. And then they got to watch Gremlins after that. So that's not really trivia. The real trivia is coming now.
That's
So-
it. Thank you, Bruce. That just made me love Gremlins even more. Go on.
Did you
So-
like Greystoke, by the way? Did you like Greystoke?
Yeah, I know it was a good movie, but not Gremlins. I mean, it's not Gremlins. Come on now.
Yeah.
So
Well,
luckily it was in
that
that order. It was Gremlins second, not for, but if you know how, that's a pretty long movie. That's like a good, almost a 4-hour block that I made my family do.
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was whenever that came out. I was old enough, but anyway. So do you know the real name of the dog and what other horror movie it appeared in?
Well, the dog's name in the movie is Barney. I believe the dog's real name is Mushroom.
Correct.
And I don't know what other movie it was in.
Mushroom was also in Pumpkinhead.
Oh, that's
right.
right. God damn it. All right. I did know that.
So before they finally settled on puppetry, what did they originally try to do to make the Gremlins come to life? I know you know this.
Yes, I do. I guess like dressing up monkeys.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, they tried a couple other things, but that was one they're like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work.
Yes. What are two famous science fiction props that appear at the convention that the dad is at, and what happens to one of the props in a later scene?
I do know this. The first one's Rob the Robot from Lost in Space. That's the easy
nope.
one.
Nope, it's
Or
from Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
And then in the background, when Ram Pelser's talking, you see the time machine from the time machine, and then it cuts away, and then it cuts back, and then it's gone with smoke and people looking around like, what the?
Yep, that's right. Absolutely correct. What corporate logo very closely resembles the Gremlins?
And in the movie?
No, in real life.
Oh,
That preceded this movie.
Oh shit! You may have stumped me on that. I have no idea.
There was a little chrome gremlin on the Gremlin car that is very similar in shape and size to what the actual Gremlins ended up.
Oh, like
looking
the
in movie.
AMC Gremlin.
Yep.
Yep. I guess I could have just guessed that one.
Who was the actual director of the science short that's playing the heart beating that's playing during the murder of the teacher by a gremlin?
That was because we watched that in school. That was Hemo the Magnificent. I don't know who directed that though.
That science short that was actually used for school teaching was directed by Frank Capra.
Son of a I should know it. Yeah, because we watched that in I think it was junior high. They put that on and I remember it got to that part, and I'm like, hey, I know this.
Yeah.
I saw this in Gremlins.
Yep. So that's all I got for you. But I thought that was some fun things for people to hear anyway. So
Yeah, those are good ones.
Great
You guys
job.
stumped me on a couple.
So I just saw this. What do you guys think of Joe Dante's upcoming film, The Man with Kaleidoscope Eyes?
I've been waiting for that forever. He keeps talking about it, and he mentions it on his Movies That Made Me podcast. They bring it up once in a while, and I think is it the who did Mandy Spectre Vision, Elijah Wood's film company. I think they're producing it, maybe.
Okay,
but yeah, I've heard of this for years, and as soon as it comes out, I'm fucking ready for it.
And it's a documentary, or is it going to be a feature film? Do you know?
I thought it was going to be a movie, like a feature film.
Because isn't it? Go ahead, you tell me, Greg.
It's a feature film, and it's a biopic on, of course, you guys know this, Roger Corman. You know, Roger Corman being a mentor to Dante, Dante working under Corman and cutting his teeth on filmmaking under Corman. And here's the great news: one of the credited writers of this movie, The Man with Kaleidoscope Eyes, is Tesla filmmaker Michael Almereyda. Is one of the writers. So we're very excited for since we all love Tesla. Michael Almereyda, one of the writers for The Man with Kaleidoscope Eyes, but it's going to be directed by Joe Dante. So that's
now. Am I correct that? Go ahead.
I was gonna say we mentioned in the previous episode. Tesla, that movie sucks, but sometimes people do bad things.
Yes.
And then they come back. Lots of people make bad movies and then they go on to make great things. So I got my fingers crossed, and maybe he'll come back within my good graces after Tesla with Man with the Kaleidoscope Eyes.
Fair enough.
Am I wrong about this? Because isn't it all specifically based on Roger Corman directing the movie The Trip?
Oh, yeah, because I think Jack Nicholson, there's some Jack Nicholson references.
Because I watched The Trip last week because of this.
Oh,
and if you don't, do you guys know anything about The Trip?
No, very little. No,
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
I wouldn't say it's a great movie. It's an oddity, but it's directed by Corman. It's written by Jack Nicholson. It stars Bruce Dern and Carradine and
Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper.
Or Dennis Hopper. Yeah, it's not Carradine. It's Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. And it's basically about Fonda taking a one-night acid trip and all the trippiness that occurs, and it's also about his relationship breaking up with his wife, and Jack Nicholson's wife. He wrote it, right? And I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but it's a really weird movie. And I can imagine a movie about the making of that movie could be super interesting. Roger Corman has said that he took acid so he could make sure to properly, represent the experience. And of course, all of them, I'm sure, took lots of acid during this time period. I would say if you decide to go check it out, it is on Amazon Prime. The one thing that is interesting about it is that you get to see these real life settings in like 67 in the Hollywood Hills, like in an actual hippie mansion, and then a whole bunch of stuff down on the Strip. When he's tripping out, he eventually leaves the mansion and goes down on the Strip. So there's a few really good scenes in there, but this could be an amazing and fascinating movie. And knowing the way Dante drops in so much weird period stuff, I could imagine this movie being fantastic. So
yeah,
cool.
I wonder if he's gonna shoot it in film or digital, because the last couple of movies he's done, they look digital.
Yeah.
The Burying the X and I want to say The Hole.
Yeah, that's right.
Digital, and then he's done a couple other. The Nightmare Cinema with Mick Garris, Ryuhei Kitamura, and
someone else. I forget.
I cannot remember.
But yeah, Nightmare Cinema.
David Slade, but that's not right. But yeah. His last few movies look like they were shot on digital, but wouldn't that be something if he actually got to shoot this one on film and really got to go in deep on the filmmaking aspect of it, making it look legit, as
right?
Yeah,
Nightmare Cinema.
That's gonna be a good movie. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I hope it gets made soon.
Yeah, Nightmare Cinema, Dante, Mick Garris, Alejandro Bruguez or something.
There you go. The one of the dead guy.
Mhm.
Okay, and then Kitamura, and then David Slade. Now, before we go on Joe Dante, my question to both of you is: let's say someone's listening. Okay, so he or she they're listening to, they watch Matinee, they watch Gremlins. What is the third Dante movie that they should watch? That right off the top, just to run it out.
Not
to three.
counting Gremlins too,
Yeah.
because that'd be my answer.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, Hollywood Boulevard. That's such a. I think that's might be his first movie, because that's kind of a movie, but also he. I guess the whole idea was that they shoot the movie, but like all the big action scenes were unused footage, or maybe used footage from other Roger Corman movies, and it actually works really well, because it doesn't look like they're plugging in footage from. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times the action scenes don't look like they're plugging in parts from other movies. And if you like Death Race 2000, Frankenstein Car makes a cameo at the end.
That's cool. Hollywood
Yeah,
Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard, just because it's one of his first ones, and it shows early spark of what Joe Dante becomes later on.
Very cool. It stars Mary Warnov and Paul Bartel. I remember them
Of
as a
course.
duo from Eating Raoul. So,
They were in a bunch of those ones back then. So
and one of the actors in Hollywood Boulevard is Jonathan Kaplan. Jonathan Kaplan would end up having quite the directing career. So he directed movies that he's directed: Love Field, Unlawful Entry, Immediate Family, The Accused, Project X. So Hollywood Boulevard. That's apropos. There's some really interesting actors in that movie. Bruce, what's your Joe Dante recommendation?
I would probably say either The Burbs, like we talked about before, because I think that really fits in nicely with those. Those three are like a really great like triple feature. I think they all share things, but all give you different things. Or if you want to go to something that's a little different tonally, maybe try The Howling. I think The Howling is also another underrated one, but has a lot of cool stuff in it, and is really like a lot of his movies. It's an oddball movie for a werewolf movie. It doesn't really fit the stereotypes. So that's a good one that maybe a lot of people haven't seen.
That's a good pick too, because Howling, that's one of those movies you think you know what it is going in.
Yep.
You have no idea what you're getting yourself
And
into.
you get to see Dee Wallace and like one of her first major roles,
Probably,
I believe.
Yeah.
So
Well, before we go, each of us, we're going to just do a little round on what we think makes, I guess, Joe Dante a unique filmmaker. Me being the least experienced. For me, it goes back to that monologue with Phoebe Cates. And during the commentary for Gremlins, he talks about really fighting for that moment, because he loves mixing both pathos and goofiness, had the right amount of pathos and goofiness. And when I think of his movies, a lot of his movies blend, like you were saying, Eric, that tragedy with the comedy. And I don't really know many directors who can reach that level, or try and they fail miserably. They either go one or the other, never just right it down the middle. And I think I can't name many directors who go right down the middle as far as balancing, like Joe Dante. So that's my take on what makes one of the many things that makes him a special filmmaker. Bruce, your turn.
I just think the pure joy and rewatchability in his movies almost across the board, but especially in his heyday, which is like, most of his career basically. But I mean, I think you can watch his movies over and over again. They're super rewatchable, and they're just a joy to watch. I think that I can't imagine people who love film not loving at least something from Joe Dante, if not a lot of his stuff. And I think he's highly underrated in that aspect. So
Cool. And even though Bruce Perky spotlighted Joe Dante, going back to that executive, what is that movie? Executive Decision, executive whatever. Steven Seagal, 20 minutes into the movie, dead. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert again. Or Eric Holmes, you're gonna lead us out. What makes Joe Dante a unique filmmaker for you?
Hey, tell you what, you like the Gremlins. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Look, it's a Kentucky Harvester. Never let me down. Every time I start it up, I just keep watching the whole thing. It's Kentucky Harvester. And Gremlins has the greatest pickup line in any movie. Come on, we're talking cable.
Right. Very good. Very good. I was expecting
my new apartment. I haven't seen your old apartment. Come on, we're talking cable. Oh, all right, sorry. I fucked it up, but go ahead.
And we're done. I thought I was expecting a scholarly, like a 500-page dissertation. So ended the dissertation. Well, it's all inferred with Eric Holmes. He bleeds Joe Dante every episode. Look at that. Look at that. See, for our listeners, audio. What is that? What are you showing, Eric Holmes? What are you showing?
Oh, it's Stripe. Stripe wants to give his 2 cents on Gremlins.
Okay, Stripe. Oh, what's your 2 cents? Oh, and then Bruce Berkey's.
It was in the greatest movie ever made.
That was scary. And thank you for the Fangoria, Bruce. I'm gonna pull, since you guys pulled a fast one. We love Joe Dante. The Joe Dante was about 20% was because I hadn't seen Gremlins. Thank you for forcing me to watch Gremlins. I'm glad we did this Joe Dante episode. We take turns as far as director spotlights. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a fast one to you guys. It's my turn. Next time in a couple of weeks, we're gonna do another director spotlight. My choice in 2 weeks is I am going to defer my choice and go to Eric Holmes because I literally am more excited. I really wanted to do this filmmaker I love called Samuel Fuller. I love Samuel Fuller, but lately I'm more excited in the next 2 weeks to dive into the career of Ida Lupino. And Eric Holmes, can you tell our listeners what to expect in a couple of weeks when we dive into the work of Ida Lupino and why she's your pick for our next director spotlight?
Well, I just picked her. I have no idea what to expect. I just, Angie Clark recommended I watch The Bigamist, and I did, and I really, really liked that movie. And, other than Elise Guy Blaché, you don't get many female directors. And that movie impressed me enough, and she seemed like she could possibly be a very interesting one. So as far as what to expect, I have no idea because I know almost nothing about her other than that movie and that I really liked it. So this will be, for me, it'll be complete learning experience, just going in completely blind. And I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see what we come out with on the other side. I imagine if it's anything like The Bigamist, we're going to be pretty happily surprised.
Well, definitely The Bigamist. I'm assuming in a couple of weeks that will be one of the films we're going to cover because that'll be kind of like a mini rewind spotlight. That seems like a very big film for us to cover, and I'm so excited. And maybe a couple of you will get to I can't wait to rewatch her Twilight Zone episode. That episode's amazing. Bruce, you have anything final to say since you're the one who spearheaded this program?
No, I'm just really, really happy that you liked the movies you saw, and I'm really happy you got to finally see Gremlins because now you are one of us. Gooble gobble, gooble gobble, one of us.
Okay. With that, we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. I am scared I'm very scared as I stutter my way out of here. Thanks guys for the support. Talk to you guys later.